Recently, we got back from the podcast summit over at the Almonds place, Almond Landscape.
HQ.
Yeah, HQ. So, how did you like that?
I thought it was interesting. I didn't know exactly what to expect and didn't think we would get on a podcast. So that was neat to see it from that perspective and just meet other people in the industry because we don't go out and network very much.
Yeah, that was definitely out of character for us.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's up to us, we're just going to hide in our house and talk to each other.
Yeah, we've done enough of that. So, yeah, it was cool to get out. Yeah, Caleb and Brittany were super accommodating with everything. Their shop is pretty snazzy.
Yeah.
It was definitely something to aspire to. Yeah, it was pretty cool seeing what they have going on. So, and then also we got to meet Naylor from the Lawn Care Rookie. He actually gave us this microphone that we're recording this on, and he was very nice to talk to. Kind of helped us out a lot with just kind of getting set up and where to turn. And
He was very eager to kind of give us a rundown of where to even go because there's so many different pieces of equipment and things you can do. So it's nice to have some guidance.
yeah, and I guess I thought that was something that in my head would be different. I thought it would have been a little bit backwards to where people were guarded against trying to help
Yeah.
others, and because they want to kind of
This is
do
my territory and yeah.
Exactly. And it seemed that it was the exact opposite. Everyone was like super helpful and not competitive in any way, and so that was pretty nice. I come from a racing background, so when you're racing, pretty much everybody there is your competitor. So you're not really looking to share a whole lot of information. You chat with people, but you're not really there to make friends.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
yeah, so it's kind of a different mindset. So, all right, let's get into it. I am John Linder,
I am Amanda Linder.
and we are the Hardscape Nerds. And why Hardscape?
Because we scape so hard.
So, did you get enough of our royalty-free beats? Didn't think so. All right. So we're a little clumsy to start here, but that's to be expected. I'm not even 100% sure this is recording, so
Roll those dice.
yeah, we are rolling those dice. So yeah, that's the name of this episode is Ready, Fire, Aim. We are doing something we don't normally feel comfortable with, and that is starting before we're ready. And if it were up to us, we would find reasons and excuses to never be ready. So we're just doing it. Having the gift from Naylor definitely kind of set it home that we feel somewhat obligated to do this now because we can't have such a nice gift sitting here and collecting dust. So we had to.
Thanks, Naylor.
Yeah. So, just a bit about us and what we intend on doing through this program. We are the Hardscape Nerds, not the Hardscape Know-It-Alls. We want to learn as much as anybody else. That's why we call ourselves nerds, that we keep trying to gain knowledge. Been in the industry for many years, and I feel I know less about it now than I did 20 years ago. So that's kind of why we're doing this, is to just kind of get more information, share it with other people who actually want to consume it, and go from there and see where it heads. So this is probably going to be our standard, somewhat standard format, where it's Amanda and I talking with each other. Sometimes it might be one of us individually, and hopefully at some point we get to speak to other people. That's kind of the goal, is other industry people, and just kind of get feedback and tips and advice from other people. So it's not an echo chamber. So that's the goal. So yeah, our standard format is basically us talking to each other, and on a semi-regular basis. We don't know exactly the format, and so yeah, Amanda and I are married together for what, 3 years?
Does it feel like it's been that little? Will be 16 years this year.
Wow.
Time does fly.
It sure does. So yeah, like I have a kind of a Zig Ziglar quote here that I told Amanda, if she ever leaves me, I'm gonna go with her. So I said, this time we gotta go someplace warm. Get out of Pittsburgh. So as far as the program itself, we don't intend on having any like profanity or anything. So it's something that could be listened to with children around, because that sometimes can get awkward if you're listening to something and you didn't expect it, and if it's language you don't typically use at church or in front of
grandma.
Yeah, around grandma, then it could get weird. So that's one thing for us. We don't intend on having any of that. So if that bores you, I understand. But yeah,
we're boring people. So.
Yeah, we're the hardscape nerds. We're not
the hardscape.
Yeah.
I don't know, glamour team divas.
Yeah, we're not the glamour team divas for sure. So part of the reason that we and I especially want to do this is I want to do this for a 20-year-old version of myself. A lot of this information didn't exist. A lot of the technical stuff, it's very hard to find where to go to actually gain the information. There's the ICPI, NCMA. You can go get certified, but really a certification is nothing more than just showing that you paid attention for one day. But that's a great start to at least do that. And it's been my experience that most bad contractors aren't bad because they're unscrupulous. It's because they don't know where to turn. They don't know the right information. So we were once that way, where we didn't quite know the proper way to build a wall. We didn't, just like anybody else, most of the time you start out cutting grass and then you say, oh, I can do that. And then it just kind of snowballs from there. But you do want to make sure you have training. So we did find training relatively early on in the process. And that doesn't mean training from the 60-year-old brick mason who has been doing walls forever that way. That's not necessarily up to standard, up to code. But yeah, so it means doing things the proper way, the way that's recommended, because brick masonry and dry stack masonry they're two completely different animals. So yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about us. So what do you have to add?
I guess, you got into it a long time ago, before, in middle school, high school, something like that.
Yeah, actually, I started in 94, 95. Me and Joe Roach were pushing around lawnmowers to the neighbors' houses. We couldn't even drive. We were 14. Yeah, bought a lawn boy for $75, and that's how we started in business. And definitely had a passion for cutting grass. Most people wanted to do all kinds of stuff. I love cutting grass. And then, yeah, I never really thought that it could be an actual career. And it turned out that it could be. And that's one thing that I think a lot of, speaking of grass and hardscapes and to compare and contrast, I think a lot of people go astray trying to get out of maintenance when they don't really want to get out of maintenance. They think there's more of a bigger ticket item with
Yeah.
the hardscapes, and that might not always be the case. And just because the dollars are more doesn't mean that there's actual
Yeah.
more.
They're going to get profit out of it.
Yeah.
Or actually make anything out of it.
Exactly. So when you mow a lawn, even if it's an apartment complex, you're almost guaranteed not to actually lose money, because your materials are almost nothing. Your equipment expenses are very fixed. You know what you have. You can usually buy used mowers and that are decent for a third of the price as new. And
But you can actually repeat that over and over again. With hardscapes, you get one shot at that project. So you can't mess it up, financially speaking, and then think you're going to gain it back the next time you do it. Well, there shouldn't be a next time. So even if you have two properties that are pretty similar and you do a job that's set up, laid out the same way, it's never going to be exactly the same. So it's even more critical, to your point, to know your numbers, to know what you have into it. The materials are definitely more expensive and there's more of them, but it's not anything you can repeat.
that's a great point. That, yeah, even if you're doing development, especially around here, almost nothing is the same. One house to the next, it's a completely different terrain. Mm-hmm. The soils are completely different from one house to the next. We've done that, worked for neighbors, and it's even the same yard from the front yard to the back. They're almost two completely different areas. So yeah, that's definitely something to pay attention to. So yeah, back to the kind of the bio. 1994 started pushing the mower around. 2000, I actually formed a company where it was me as a sole proprietor, and had one or two summertime help, and it was basically just me going around cutting grass, doing a few mulch jobs, and did that for a lot of years. And then in 2007 we got married. And what's kind of your role?
So we got married. I was a teacher at the time, and within a few years I started grad school. But in my spare time, after school, weekends, I would go out and look at jobs and estimate jobs. And we were just talking about this, I think, yesterday, like how bad I was. I didn't even put the buried base course of a wall I didn't factor that into an estimate for a wall. So we were charging by the square foot, and I wasn't even charging for all of the square footage. So it took a while to get ourselves to a point where we learned our numbers, got comfortable with them, realized all the true costs, and accounted for all of them. So so it was just answering phones. It started to help you out, answering phones, estimates, taking the administrative duties off of you so you could still be in the field full time. And then we started having children in 2013. Sarah was born, and that's when this was like full time for me, as much as full time as it can be with still juggling children at home, because then we had 1 and 2 and 3. So yeah, but I quit teaching, and here I am.
Nice. Yeah, you quit a real job, and that's my greatest fear, is to get a real job. So yeah, now you're one of us. So yeah, and then 2018 we focused, I think it was 2018, we focused solely on hardscape installation. We got completely out of the maintenance end, and we just started doing hardscape installations, and that was a rough few years. We had the weather was a problem. We had a few record-setting rainfall years in Pittsburgh, and we set, I think, the first and the third out of 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. So it was tough years to try and do installation work, for sure. So we worked on days that in the past we would have never worked, and we had to kind of gain the ability to do that, and there's no blueprint for that, and that's what kind of this channel is supposed to be about, is to share best practices and share what we've learned, and just how to deal with super wet soils. And you can't find a video where someone shows you how to deal with wet soils that last more than 30 seconds or 2 minutes on YouTube. No one's actually going through and showing you the whole process. You can find all kind of videos, spend hours and hours and hours finding the pretty stuff and the easy stuff and the after photos, but no one's showing you the down deep, really where the project is made, and where it's going to last by doing it properly. And so many people don't know what properly means, and that's kind of it's frustrating, and we're just doing a very small part to try and help that along. So yeah, and just switching over. So the rain, I can't blame it all on the rain, because we just weren't profitable with hardscapes, and I knew that before we switched over. I did have a passion for it. I loved doing it. I felt like I never felt like we were ripping somebody off. I always struggled when we did a mulch job, and I felt like to do mulch was such a waste of money. And I understand people were hiring us and they were willing to pay it, but to me it just felt like such a waste of money because I knew what it was going to look like in 6 months. Yeah. And that's what I love about doing the hardscapes. I don't have to worry about that. The weeds aren't going to take over the wall. I don't have to worry about anybody watering their patio. Mm-hmm. The patio died because it wasn't watered properly. That doesn't exist anymore. So
we're taking user error out of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I love, and I love the fact that we can still go by projects that we've done 15 years ago and they still look good. That's really exciting, especially considering the turnover in our industry, that most guys don't last 15 years, and it's sad, and we want to kind of change that. We want landscaping, hardscaping to become an actual trade instead of an afterthought, and we want it to be a place that competes with the unions for work. We want people to think of to become an electrician and a plumber. We want them to think about being a hardscaper too. So that's a pretty lofty goal, but that's kind of the mission, what we want to start doing. So, and it's not an easy one, but that's where we're looking ahead. So, you mentioned about square foot pricing. what do you see being wrong with that?
Just like you said, every job is different. Even neighbor to neighbor. We did, I don't remember what year it was, but 2 walls for neighbors next door to each other, and they were essentially the same wall, but there were still just some minor differences. That's probably the closest anyone's ever going to get to a project that's the same for 2 properties. But if you have a wall that steps up on the bottom versus one that's completely flat for the footer, that's going to change your square foot price. If you have step ups on top, if you're using grid and doing a reinforced wall versus not reinforced, the grid lengths, even if you have like a separate square foot price for a regular gravity wall and a reinforced wall, that reinforced wall, if you have a 6-foot tall wall or a 10-foot tall wall, those grid lengths and the number of pieces are going to be totally different. So you can't just say, well, if I have a reinforced wall, it's going to be, I don't know, $100 a square foot or whatever, just throwing a number out there. And it's not going to work. It may work a few times, but you're going to maybe come out on top on some and like lose your butt on some. And it's not accurate.
Well, the market's not stupid. You're gonna fill up your schedule pretty quick with the jobs that you underbid. Mm-hmm. You're gonna get a lot of those, and then you're gonna be the busiest company in town, and you can't afford to pay your bills. So we've seen that happen many times. It's a struggle. It happens to everyone because most of us don't go to school for business. We don't go to school for there is no hardscape course that I'm aware of. And Penn State has horticulture. You can learn how to plant plants and maintain a golf course. There's nothing that exists that I'm aware of locally for hardscape installation.
And I've actually called Penn State, Maine, and I inquired about that to see what does their landscape contracting program look like. And, is there a specific hardscape course? They don't. They have some hands-on projects, and they incorporate some hardscapes into them, but how in-depth do they get? I have no idea. I don't think it didn't sound like too much from what I heard.
Yeah. Other than, I don't even know if it still exists, what Bill Gardocki was doing in his area. I don't know that there is. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's still doing it or not, but yeah, that to me that was the only course at a college level that you could actually take. So, and even the trade schools, most of them don't have that. It's all standard brick masonry is mm-hmm. pretty much the only thing that is ever offered.
Yeah.
So, and this is a completely different format. I see brick masons frequently, and when they put together foundation block walls, it's an absolute. You should never do that. So there's just many things that our industry we kind of overlap. We're kind of the handyman industry, where landscaper just means anything outdoors, and mm-hmm. For some reason we are just so not specialized, whereas every other industry is, and I don't see why it's taken so long to catch up, but it's kind of scary when you don't need any sort of certification, any sort of credentials to build a 15-foot retaining wall that's hanging over a playground.
Yeah.
You can just do it, and you need an engineer drawing, but no one's showing up. I've never.
Check on it.
Yeah, and when they do, most of the time the permit officers don't have the education.
They're geared for house additions, not retaining walls.
They understand, wiring requirements, and most of them don't quite understand retaining walls.
Well, even just, to that point of specialization, you would never dare ask your electrician to check out your plumbing while he's at your house, or look at your dishwasher and see what's wrong. but somehow anything outside is fair game. If you're a landscaper, can you check my gutters? Can you look at this? Can you, like, just anything? Because people, window wells and all that stuff, they don't know who to call and just assume you just kind of do everything.
I think that's part of the problem, is they don't know who to call.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
That's a whole other crusade.
Yeah. For sure. So, you have anything else to kind of add to this?
I don't know. I think you pretty much covered the vast, overarching ideas of what we're after and who we are.
So. All right. Well, we will wrap this up.
Boy.
So here it comes. Hang on while I try and get our outro music. I thought I had it, but I had it muted. Proverbs 14:23, in all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. Let's stop talking and make something happen. Thank you both for listening. Feel free to share this with in-laws, outlaws, that friend who doesn't appreciate personal space. They sure won't bother you anymore.
Well, if this doesn't work out, you might have a career in comedy.